proudly sponsored by BKD, CPAs and advisors. My name is Chad Bean. I am with the Fort Collins Area Chamber, and I want to personally thank you all for joining us today. The goal of our 2021 webinar series is to provide presentations on timely topics that will impact the business community. We're excited to partner with the Larimer County Workforce Development Center to provide insights on the current job market and changing worker preferences, as well as discuss best practices for recruiting candidates. Why don't you give us a wave if you're our speakers today, so people kind of know you ahead of time. Just a few housekeeping items. Please keep your computer muted during the presentation. We will kind of do a little bit of Q&A. I will also open Q&A up at the end for any last minute questions. So you can also place your questions into the chat function. So I want to encourage you to use that. You might have saw the little warning on the screen. This is being recorded. And we will share it with also any materials or handouts at the end of the presentation. So now that my housekeeping is out of the way, I do want to introduce Jennifer. She is the marketing manager with BKD, and I am pleased to turn it over to her. So Jennifer, take it away for us.
Hello, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick introduction today. I'm Jennifer Hallam. I'm the marketing director for BKD CPAs and advisors. We're honored to support these monthly webinars. BKD has local offices here in Colorado and as well as 40 offices across the country. Because of that, we're able to deliver hometown service with the resources of a national firm. And if you want to learn more about BKD, please visit our website. We have a very extensive thoughtware post on there, which has free webinars on PPP and all of these hot topics similar to these webinars that Fort Collins Chamber is offering. They're all free, and articles, things like that, that you guys can learn more about. And if you have any questions, let me know. But we do feel strongly about supporting events like this webinar series, as they provide great information and are a valuable resource for the Northern Colorado community. At BKD, we constantly strive to deliver unmatched client service, and the Fort Collins Chamber allows us to connect with our Northern Colorado clients and community colleagues to do just that. We truly value our relationship with the Chamber, and thank you for all you do for Northern Colorado. I hope everybody enjoys the session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And if you're able to, I encourage you, please go ahead and drop some of your websites and resources directly into the chat as well, so people can check your website out.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you again, Jennifer. And a big thank you to BKD for your continuous support of our 2021 webinar series. I do want to just highlight that this isn't possible without you guys. So thank you so much. Now on to the presentation. I do want to provide a couple of introductions. I would like to introduce Adam Crowe and Andrew Minor with the Larimer County Economic and Workforce Development. Adam, give us a wave so we know who you are. There he is. So Adam Crowe is the Economic Development Manager for the Larimer County Economic and Workforce Development Department. We're going to refer to that as LCEWD. The LCEWD connects people to meaningful work and businesses to talent and resources, improving our community's economic well-being. Adam grew up in Northern Colorado and settled in Fort Collins, where he received a BA in history and a master's degree in education from Colorado State University. So go Rams. In his free time, Adam enjoys hiking in the mountains and trying to keep up with his busy family. Adam is passionate about building a community that fosters business growth and meaningful employment for its residents. Adam is grateful to live in a community where so many other people share those same passions. Andrew, give us a wave so we know who you are, please. Awesome. So Andrew Minor is the business service coordinator for the LCEWD. He has been with them for over 14 years. During his time, he has worked with our youngest job seekers looking through Larimer County's Career Rise program. Andrew's passion is working with job seekers and businesses to understand the needs of both and to best create pathways to meaningful employment. Adam and Andrew, really gracious for you to bring your expertise today. The stage is yours. Take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Chad. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to screen sharing on my side. Give me a quick second here. And then we'll get underway. Okay, you all should see a presentation up there with Andrew and I's names. Does that look good to everybody? Very cool. And just make sure we get the chat so I can watch that too, although Jen with the chamber is also going to help us with the chat. So Chad already introduced us, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. In fact, you may know more about me now than you wanted to. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and skip us along through our presentation. And this is going to be our agenda. And really, we're here to talk with you all about a variety of things, but they all lead back to the one topic of, oh my goodness, it is super hard to find and source candidates. We've posted jobs in Northern Colorado for years. Maybe we haven't always gotten the candidates that we wanted, but now we're getting so many fewer people apply for our jobs, and we're getting, or maybe none at all. So what we want to talk about initially in the NOCO economic overview is, you know, how's Northern Colorado looking economically? And we're going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on that, because a lot of this is going to be stuff that you know. And then we do want to talk about some of the factors that are leading to, in the impacts of COVID-19, that are leading to that difficulty right now. And a lot of it is, we've had a labor shortage in Northern Colorado for some years now, potentially a little more than a decade. That's likely to continue. And the pandemic has just exacerbated it. So we'll talk about some of those reasons. But then what we want to do is very quickly get into some of the best practices that Andrew and his team work on when it comes to helping businesses that are having trouble recruiting right now or having more difficulty recruiting right now. How do you engage in those best practices? How can we help you? How can you understand them a little bit differently? What are some things that you can take out of this presentation and start working on today? What are some things that we can present to you that you're really interested in, and you can connect with us to learn more? And Andrew and I were going through all these things that we're going to talk about, from job postings, wage analysis, building familiarity, and accessing talent pools. There's no cost built into any of these pieces. We're county governments, and we really want to understand your needs, and we want to understand how we can help you with those needs. So we can be pretty flexible as well. But again, there's a suite of services that you can plug into. There's also some expertise in Andrew and his team that can definitely help you out. The other thing that I'd like to point out, and we're going to give you access and connection to all of these pieces in the PowerPoint as we go. And then Jen is going to put everything together and send it out to you all so that you have access to all the resources in the presentation. So watch for that after the meeting. And then we also want to make sure that if you have questions and you came in with questions, that we're answering those for you. So there's some time at the end that we're going to set aside, but we're also open to answering questions as we go, because we're going to be hitting a lot of these topics fast and furious. We may be making a recommendation and it takes us 30 seconds to cover that piece or that singular service. And then you may go, wait, I need a little more info. So feel free to raise your hand or pop something in the chat, and we'll follow up with you to get those questions answered. We really do want to make sure that you're walking out with some valuable information and some to-dos on your list. So that being said, let's go ahead and skip along. Oh, and I should note that you probably noticed from our profile pictures that both Andrew and I both have A names and we're bald. So it is totally okay to confuse the two of us. We're not going to be upset about that, or at least I won't. Andrew doesn't want to be confused with me for obvious reasons, but it's more of a reputation piece. Anyhow, moving forward, the first topic that we want to cover with you all, I need to make sure my cursor's in the right spot, is, as we were discussing, some of the economic factors that are leading to our current circumstances. So when we look at Northern Colorado as a whole, we've got a solid population, which is quickly getting close to 700,000. And when we think about Northern Colorado with these statistics and the information that we're going to be sharing with you today, if it comes out in statistics, it is Northern Colorado, so Weld and Larimer counties combined. So when we look at these population numbers, it's the 2 county areas. We're going to get to 1 million probably within the next 20 years or so, because we're growing so quickly. We do have really solid participation in our labor force, which is what you're seeing there in that second statistic. Much higher than we see in other areas of the nation right now, but traditionally it's always been higher. However, we're growing so quickly that there are more jobs than people right now. And again, that existed before the pandemic, but the pandemic has exacerbated it and made it even worse, and made it more difficult. Solid earnings, although we don't want to undercut the fact that there are many people that are having challenges with affordability in Northern Colorado. So it is a concern and it's a challenge, and it's one of the reasons that we're seeing, you know, house prices and housing being an issue. It's also a reason that we're seeing some of the wage shifts that we are in Northern Colorado. So, and we're gonna talk about wages specifically a little later on. But moving along, in this slide, the one piece that I wanted to point out to you all, and you can probably interpret most of this just fine without me gabbing on about it, but the second to last, in unemployed, 25,000 people. So there are 25,000 people, to put a solid number on it, in Northern Colorado, well, the Larimer counties, that are currently unemployed. So these are people that are in the labor force, meaning they're seeking that gainful employment, yet they haven't found it, or for a variety of reasons, maybe they haven't quite gotten there. We're going to cover some of those reasons, but I wanted to make sure that you all saw that there was a solid number put around that. And then the other piece that we've got here, and the next piece that we want to talk about, and just make sure that we're all aware of, and I think you all are, as a Northern Colorado region compared to the rest of the nation, we have many more people with advanced degrees, so meaning a bachelor's degree or higher, than you're going to see in other areas. That does impact our workforce a little bit. It does impact some of our middle skill occupations, so those folks that just need a certificate or just need a little bit of training to get into their occupation. And it can put some pressures and some additional challenges in recruiting candidates in those areas. But we just wanted to make sure that you all were aware of that piece. If you weren't, but if you've lived here for more than maybe 3 or 4 days, you probably noticed that. All right, so impacts of COVID-19 on that greater perspective. And a lot of the greater perspective that I just shared with you, that existed pre-COVID. So then what has COVID done to those already challenging pieces when it comes to recruiting individuals in Northern Colorado? Well, COVID-19 has definitely had an impact on the unemployment rate. You can see this line change. And it's good to note that a lot of the data that we're going to talk about today can be found in the recovery tracker on nocovidcovers.com. Encourage you all to check that out. It's our one-stop shop for business resources. That is maintained by the Fort Collins Area Chamber. Our department plays a part, as well as City of Fort Collins and many other regional municipal partners. So encourage you to take a look at that. But anyhow, what you can see here is unemployment, obviously through the early months of the pandemic, was very, very high. We're still recovering from that. It's still very high. Andrew always reminds me that we're not likely to get back down to that 2% anytime soon. However, even though we have a large number of people that are unemployed, we're still going to continue to have challenges around recruiting too. So it's not that just because we have high unemployment, all those challenges go away. That's really not the case, as we'll see as we kind of go through this process. The other thing that we want to talk about, labor force. So this is labor force participation. How many people in our population are stepping up and saying, I'm either employed or I need to be employed and I'm looking for work, which does include our people that are on unemployment insurance. And so this is a comparison between, so 0 is the same as 2019. As you can see, most of Colorado and most of Northern Colorado is above that 0 line, which means we're getting back to those 2019 numbers. But what this is telling us, because we have high unemployment and we're getting back to those labor participation rates that we saw pre-pandemic, is that people are making different choices. Based on home circumstances, based on work preferences, based on satisfaction and employment, all of those things. So you all have probably heard tell of things like the Great Resignation. Lots of people are reevaluating their current occupation and thinking about moving to another field altogether. We're seeing that a lot in professional occupations. You all have probably seen that in your organization with some of those positions. And we're likely to continue to see those shifts moving forward. But what this is also telling us is that many of those people who are either on or still on unemployment insurance are making other choices. So as they're coming off of unemployment insurance, they're not going back to the same job or the same career that they were in. There also are plenty of people that are choosing to go get re-educated, and we're seeing some of those folks come into our office, and Andrew and his team are continuously working with individuals that are looking to transition into new employment. So what that means and why, and it leads to why we're going to focus on some of the areas that we're going to today, is that because people are making different choices and not going back to occupations that they've had before or that they're as familiar with, talent pools are shifting. So where you as an employer have gone to find candidates in the past may not be where you can go moving forward. You're going to have to expand that, or you're going to have to look at recruiting a little differently. And that's what we hope to help you with today. Is how do you access talent pools as they're shifting and changing? How do you find those candidates that may be coming from another occupation but would be great for your organization? So more to come on that. Anyhow, the next piece is that we do know that equity played a big part in our understanding around the pandemic. There are truly people that were more impacted than others. So occupationally, this is a chart that really helps with this. And it's good to note that in this chart, I'll explain to you in a minute what it means, but you can see that it's got some worldwide stats on it. And this is pulled together by an organization called McKinsey & Company, who does some really great research on this. And they're going to do another, they do the next slide as well. But anyhow, this is good to know that we have two colliding impacts right now in our economy when it comes to workforce. We have people that for many years have been subject to and occupations that have been impacted by automation. So that is shifting the way that we work and where people are working and the types of jobs that they have. The pandemic did something similar. And so what this chart does is capture some statistics and some impacts from both of those circumstances. And essentially what we're seeing in this is that occupations that were most impacted by automation or are being most impacted by automation, many of those were also impacted by COVID-19 with large layoffs or furloughs or whatnot. And those are the occupations moving forward that are in this gray or black category here down towards the bottom. And then as you get into the blue, which is up towards the top in the United States column there, those are occupations that are going to continue to grow moving forward. So one thing to think about in these occupations is that the gray occupations taken as a whole are disproportionately occupied by employees who are women and people of color. Whereas the blue occupations are disproportionately occupied by men who are white. And so there is some transition. Now, that's not a rule that applies to all of them, but taken as a whole, that is what we're seeing. And we're getting some data pulled together locally here that we think is going to point us in the same direction. But what that means is that as we think about employees of the future that have been most displaced, they are going to have higher numbers of people of color and higher numbers of women in them. So if we think about individuals that are looking for that new employment, disproportionately, it's going to be people who show up with those identities. And so when you think about your recruiting and your hiring pools, you have to think about diversity, equity, and inclusion. How are you going to include people that may not look like or be like the folks that you have traditionally hired and recruited? So we're going to talk a little bit about that as we go along too. And Andrew's going to have some great insights for us. The next thing that we want to talk about here is how are worker expectations changing? The one expectation that we all know about and we're all thinking about is the work from home. We are well aware that not every occupation is built to work from home. I think we all know that. We also know that not every organization is similarly equipped. But for those people who are in occupations that are well suited to work from home, 30% of them would like to consider that moving forward, at least 2 days a week, if not 3 days a week. And if they feel like their employer is resistant to continuing that work from home schedule, they would consider that as a reason to find a different or other employment. So it is something to think about if you have occupations in your organization that are well suited to working from home. That is going to be an expectation moving forward. And we're going to talk about some continued shifting expectations as we move through the presentation and we're tackling some of the interventions that we'll recommend to you all. But that's the last of our stats. We want to move into job postings. So to keep in mind, there are many things that we could share with you and some resources that we could point you to that are going to help you retain employees. But really what this presentation is built around is how do you get more people to apply for your job postings? And it starts with the job posting, which Andrew is our expert in, and his team is helping people all day, every day with this piece. So I'm going to turn it over to him. And Andrew, I don't think you have control over the presentation, so I'm just going to rely on you to give me the thumbs up or the whatever, or the hey, come on, jerk, for those pieces. So
appreciate that, Adam.
Yeah.
So job postings, I like to introduce this as a kind of a concept, and I'm going to marry together the ideas of working together with our job seekers and our businesses. Oftentimes I'm working with our job seekers and we're reviewing their resume, right? We want to make sure that they're going to be putting their best foot forward and introducing themselves to a new opportunity. It's exactly what your job posting is doing for your business. This is your business's occupational resume. How are you going to attract those job seekers? So we really want to make sure you have the ability to put your best foot forward to attract as many eyes to that posting as you can. We want to make sure our job seekers are able to see themselves inside of your job posting. So the best job postings that we kind of walk through, they have about 5 different elements that we want to make sure. Wage and benefits, that's a whole other section. So we're gonna let Adam kind of walk us through that. So we're gonna start with the schedule and flexibility, skills, competencies, definitely inclusion that Adam referenced to, and then this concept of familiarity. All of these are going to play an excellent role in your ability to attract the talent that has the skill sets that you need, but also are now attracted to the missions that you're setting forward. So go ahead and next slide, please. So when we talk about schedules and flexibility, these are the things that you, as the employer, you have the ability to maneuver and to be able to create additional opportunities. So we want to make sure you're very clear and upfront, transparent, and honest about what these positions are going to look like. And we want you to kind of push you to be able to expand this as much as possible. So if you have always done this as a 12-hour shift, that's only the ways I've ever hired on. I've got 3 shifts and they all work 12 hours at a time. Can you find any flexibility in there? Can you offer a part-time opportunity? Again, referencing to what Adam had said about the types of individuals that are more looking for work right now, they are more apt to these abilities, to these flexible schedules. So do you have within your realm to be able to augment or create or add another shift to be able to attract those talents? And if you do, we really want to make sure you're talking about it. So if you offer full and part-time opportunities, I want to see that inside your job posting. If you have the ability to work from home, a remote opportunity, you need to mention that. These are buzzwords now. These are the ones that these are going to really perk up your audience's attention and get them interested. And again, they're going to see themselves inside this. What do your benefits look like? Do you offer that ability to go volunteer at your child's school? Do you value the time of your employees? Do you really want to invest in them? Do you offer training opportunities? So again, when we talk about schedules and flexibility, this is where we want to add. We want your job posting to be full of these words to be able to attract the attention of those job seekers.
So Andrew, as we move on, one of the things that I've heard you talk about, and if you could address it in here, is not every employer has the flexibility that the employer down the street has for their schedules. Manufacturing, if you work for the school district, we need you here at these very specific times, and this is how it works. But what I've heard you say is that regardless, you have to address the schedule in your job description no matter what it is, because it may work perfect for someone, but if it's left open as a question in the mind of the job seeker, they're not going to apply. It's much like what you said.
Yeah, thank you for that, Adam. That's exactly right. So again, it's that element of being transparent. You have the ability to control some of these aspects, and some of them you will not. If you have a floor that's operating 24 hours a day, you need people there, at these set shifts, and that's not going to change. That's out of your control, but you need to be able to make sure that you're putting that inside your posting. So again, we want to limit any kind of confusion. If there is going to be confusion, really what's going to happen is the talent's going to go somewhere else. So we want to just, again, kind of concentrate on these aspects that you can change. We want to make sure we're putting everything into that job posting. So I can see, if I'm the job seeker, I can see myself within that job post. We talk about skills and competencies. There's a buzzword going on right now. We're talking about skills-based hiring versus what we've done in the past. So we have these proxies of experience and education. So a lot of times, you see inside of a job posting that a bachelor's degree is required or 5 years experience is required. I'm going to challenge you to address the question of why. Some of these make a tremendous amount of sense. If there's a specific certificate that I need to possess if I'm going to work in this job, if I'm going to be a bus driver, I need a CDLA or a CDLB. If I'm going to operate specific equipment, I might need to be certified in that, and that's great. And I wanted you to list those qualifications inside your job posting. But these ones that are a little open-ended, like 5 years experience, do you need that? Is that something that is going to define, I'm going to be successful in that position or not? Again, what we're dealing with here when we talk about inclusion, are people able to see themselves in that job posting? Are women, are people of color, we know just through research, we know that they need to see 95% or 100% of themselves inside of a job posting to convince them that they're the right person and they're going to apply for that job. Not so much with white men. 60, 65%. If they see that I've got the 65% of the skills that you put in there, they may go ahead and apply. So what you're doing by these proxies, you're really opening yourself up to just the one pool. So really, you're going to get a lot of the same people applying for that position, and that's the population that's not looking for work as much as these others. So by looking at this concept of fit versus addition, I love this, and Adam introduced this to me a little while ago. I kind of look at fit as this is what we've always done. We know this has always worked. It's the pool that we've always turned to when we're hiring. I want you to think about addition. How do we add to your skill set? If these same types of people have always been, traditionally working in your company, by adding these increased talent pools, you're bringing in such a more diverse skill set. And you're being more inclusive, and you have more opportunities to find those job seekers that are going to best meet your needs. This is where what I kind of referenced to. Here's this is a typical line that you're going to see inside of a job posting, that 5 years management experience. If we can turn that on its head and we can tweak that a little bit to this bottom line, do you see the opportunities that other people are going to understand now, that maybe I now see myself as, yes, I do have these skills. You've outlined more clearly what you're looking for versus the generic 5 years management experience. I may only have 6 months or a year and a half experience, but I do see myself as a skilled leader. I do have the ability to provide exceptional and I can motivate my team. So what I've done for the last year and a half. So I'm going to definitely see myself more inside that bottom one than being so limited versus the 5 years one on top. We are here to help. It's we are your local county government. As Adam referenced before, everything that we're talking about right now does not have any other additional charges to you. So one of the ways we want to introduce you to is when we talk about skills-based hiring, is this wonderful initiative that Marco has brought up. It's called Skillful, and Skillful has created this job post generator. And what it does, it allows you to kind of input your job title. And it's going to break down a list of skills that may be involved that you can now self-select and put in. I do like to make a difference between the skills, the responsibilities, the duties versus qualifications. And Skillful does an excellent job on those. Qualifications, I think, of as the things that a job seeker must come to the table with. You do not have the ability to train them on. So as you're looking at your job posting, if you're saying that one of the qualifications is 3 years experience, you really have you've eliminated a giant pool of people to consider. So if we go back in and we actually start saying, well, on the duties and responsibilities, the skills that I'm looking for, I'm willing to train you on. The more you are willing to train on, the bigger your pool is going to get. But Skillful does an excellent job of helping you identify what are those essential skills that that I'm really going to be looking for in my next employee, and how do I market that to them. Again, it's a free tool, and it's absolutely, I highly recommend looking over that. Our next opportunity is Elevate. So we have a training series here for you to consider. That really walks through on these skills-based hiring. How do you recruit and hire for skills versus experience? You can click, when you get this in your email, you can click on this link. These are these classes are being offered all the time, and if they're not, if you don't have one that's going to fit your schedule, we can reach out to Adam and I. We can get you connected to the coordinator of Elevate, and we can actually create a training specifically for you.
Okay, Andrew, is this my section?
This is your section, Adam.
All right. So when it comes to job postings, the number one thing you can do is when it comes to inclusion and making sure that you're being inclusive of different skill sets or people of color and women, is that skills-based piece that Andrew had talked about. There's a few other tweaks that we would encourage you to consider. And we're going to use our great partners at the City of Fort Collins as an example. So shout out to them. I did see a few folks on the presentation from them. And they're not the only ones that are doing this. They're just an example of how it's being done. So we wanted to share that with them. So the first one is that in where you have your jobs posted, or even within your job posting, be very clear about your intentions around inclusion. So City of Fort Collins has put out this statement, and you can read more. It takes you to a link in their social sustainability department or office over at the city. But again, they're very clear about what inclusion means to them and how they're moving forward. These types of statements do speak very widely, or do speak very clearly to diverse people or people of diversity, right? And letting them know that this is an organization. It may not be perfect, but this is an organization that is working towards these ideals. It's an inclusive organization. And of course, no one's expecting perfection, but is this a place where I feel like I'm going to be heard, I'm going to be valued, and I'm going to be supported? And these types of statements go a long way towards increasing diversity in your talent pools. The next one is address barriers. So exactly what Andrew was saying, the city has been very upfront about it. Women and people of color are less likely to apply for jobs unless they believe they can perform every job description task. So remember, it's about 65% of white men that they only need to see themselves performing or think that they can perform 65% of those tasks. Women and people of color have a much higher bar. In fact, a lot of them say 100%. If I can't do it all, I'm not going to apply. So again, that skills-based piece is here. But another thing that you can do in regard to that is exactly that last line that's in here. If you're interested in applying, we encourage you to think broadly about your background and your skill set. So it's recognizing that there are challenges in our current hiring practices, but we need to meet you at a place where your skills are, and we want you to really consider us as an employer and think broadly about the things you can do. We all know that we're going to still have proxies built into our job descriptions, but explaining it in this way really opens up the door to more conversations. And word on the street is that the city is seeing more diverse talent pools in the positions that really address it in these ways. So anyway, great example, and encourage you all to think about including statements such as those. And of course, we can help you with those pieces and access to language. So familiarity, Andrew, I think this is one for you for sure.
Absolutely. So when we talk about familiarity, Adam addressed this from the very beginning as well. Our talent pools have shifted. So what you've done in the past to attract talent to your openings, it may not be as effective as it was before, because we found you're going to have to reintroduce yourself to the talent pool. We have to let them know exactly who you are. What kind of impact are you making in the community? So what does your industry and your organization offer is going to be extremely important. So it's going to be your mantra, your message that we've got to deliver to the job seekers themselves. One way we can help you with this is by, again, reminding job seekers. It may be something that, you know, you've overlooked because of how, again, this is something you've always done. It's always been the way it's been before. We need to take the time and let people know, even if you think it's obvious. So, you know, when we talk about, you know, our restaurants and you're hiring, remind them that what kind of team that you've built there, the culture. You spent a lot of time developing that team. You put a lot of energy into that. That's something real special, and that's something that not every competitor of yours is going to have. So talk about what makes you special there. Talk about what skill sets you're going to help them grow. Let them know that there's going to be a different opportunity. If you're an entry-level construction laborer, let them know that, yeah, you're going to get some tutelage and we're going to train you on this, and you're not going to be entry-level for very long. We're going to give you opportunities to grow. Remind them about the flexibility that you offer. Remind them that, you know, this is a great opportunity for those that appreciate something that's different every day. You're not going to, no day is going to be the same as it was before. You can include this in your job post. This is a great way to introduce yourself, you know, as an introduction paragraph to your job description. And again, we are here to help. This is a brand new tool that we've just launched recently in the last couple of weeks. So we do have the ability to review your job posts for you. One thing that Adam drew this to my attention today. One thing we're not really good at is shrinking our links. One thing, so you will be receiving this in your email. You will be able to definitely click on this. You don't have to memorize exactly what that URL is. But by clicking on that, really, we're just asking for some basic information, and you can upload up to 2 job posts at a time. Everything that we've spoken about today, you know, the diversity, equity, and inclusion, the skills-based hiring. This is what we're going to be reviewing for, and we're going to be providing feedback. Again, we offer the same tool for our job seekers. We're reviewing resumes. We get some great eyes on this. We're going to be able to you know, again, do our best to help you put your best foot forward to attract the type of talent that you really need, and help get that message out into different locations that maybe it never was before.
All right.
And
well,
this is
Andrew,
for you, Adam.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I'm going to take wage, and I'm going to dive right into this one. And I think there's a lot of questions around, is raising wages really going to make a difference for my organization when it comes to recruiting? And with all things that involve human beings, the answer is it depends, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because it's not as easy as just raising wages. There's a number of things that you can do in concert with each other to help with that. And we're going to talk about how the skills piece that Andrew just talked about and wages play well together and can make a big difference for you. And again, you know, it's just a reminder that the more things that you do that we're outlining in this presentation, the more successful you're going to be in recruiting candidates and getting more people to apply for your jobs. But you have to pick the things that are a best fit for your organization. And we're on hand to help you figure out what those things are. We're good at this. We have lots of conversations around it. We have our finger on the pulse of the job seeker market. So reach out around that. Specifically wage, because it can get complex. It's not as easy as just raising a wage. So one of the things that we can do is a very basic wage analysis for you. And you can see here that I've just entered some or added some information for some of our increasing or larger employment occupational sets in Northern Colorado. So wait staff, production workers, administrative assistants, and delivery drivers. These are the median advertised wages that are out there. So of the publicly advertised positions, recruiting candidates, these are the median wages. So essentially what Andrew would say is this is what your competition is advertising. Now, oftentimes people are paid more after negotiating, depending on the occupation, depending on, you know, because you basically, you know, when you hire people, you may raise, depending on their experience and what they bring to the table and what they add, you may provide a higher wage to them when you hire them as part of negotiations. But what we want to talk about is more than just what we can provide you when it comes to wage comparisons. This is pretty quick and easy for us to do. Just we'll tell you how to submit a request for it. But one of the things that we like to do is really look at what difference does it actually make. So for those of you who are sitting in front of a laptop, you might have to get pretty close for this because it gets pretty tiny. Sorry about that. But the gist is at $16 an hour, an administrative assistant, which is what we were seeing before, our medium wage, that dark green circle that's at the bottom, That's your talent pool. It's about 1,800 people. Some are working, some are employed. Most of them are working right now. But if you ease up, you don't raise the wage, but you ease up on the skill sets that you're looking for, and you're more skills based in your hiring, you could see that talent pool. Now, of course, you have to raise awareness, and we're going to talk about familiarity in just a minute. But that available talent pool with near skill sets, with a little bit of training, they're going to be exactly what you need, could go from about 1,800 to over 6,000 individuals, which is a pretty big pool of individuals. But they would be coming from other occupations. So you have to be ready for those additions, right? You have to think about them as additions rather than a fit. Now, if you were to raise the wage by $3 an hour, so this would be typical in that sort of 50th percentile for that person that has 5 years worth of experience, you might have to pay them $19 an hour. But if you're advertising for that, you can see that the dark green circle goes up to over 2,000, but the next circle up with an easing goes over 9,000. So again, you're pulling more individuals because those people with that skill set are making somewhere between $16 an hour and $19 an hour. And now that you've got their attention at $19 an hour, they're willing to turn towards your occupation and think about that in a very different way. And think about, do I have those skill sets? But if they read your job description and they're seeing that you're very specific about those skill sets and you have lots of proxies in there, rather than lots of skills and competencies listed, they're probably going to say no. So then you're back down to that 2,000. So again, this is skills and wage, how they play together and how that works. So we're going to look at another one, and this one's slightly different because this one is going to have more hard skills required. So it's our production workers, $16.06 an hour, similar wage as last time as the position above. You've got about 158 people that have all the skills necessary for that job posting. That's a very small pool. You ease up on that a little bit, and any manufacturer will tell you this. When we hire, we're typically hiring people that need a little bit of training, need a little bit of mentorship, a little bit of guidance. But if you raise the wage, you don't see significant gains in that smaller circle like we did before, and it's because of all the technical skill requirements. But as a manufacturer or a business that's in production, if you're willing to do more of that on the job training, if you're willing to and able to invest in folks who are coming from other occupations and get them up to speed in the production worker occupation, you could see at the $16 an hour having a much larger pool at 5,000, or if you're paying even more because you're going to have to obviously get their attention, which encourages them to think about a whole other occupation. Wage oftentimes does that, but you could have a pool of about 11,000 people. So again, it's that wage and skill sets together that if you think about them, and again, there's a happy medium for every occupation and every employer. So these are just broad examples. We'd want to connect with you, do an analysis with you, make sure that your wages are at a place that makes sense for your organization.
Hey, Adam, real fast on wage. We do have a question in the chat in regards to if, say, an employer offers like a 2 or 3% yearly increase. Is that something that should be listed in the job posting? Is there success with that? Is there any? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say anything that you can do that gets at that comparable wage, right? Because folks are thinking about paying all their bills and their current bills, right? And how do we maintain our lifestyle? So yes, anything that you can do around that, and any time that you can show that you invest in your employees, whether that's through wage increases or benefits, like, we had given an example earlier, you can take some time to go volunteer at your kid's school. It could be out of the box there too, but it's that any time that you can look or you can talk about how you invest in your employees, that's always a good thing. And wage is no exception. But moving along through this one, Andrew, this gets back at something that you had addressed earlier. We can help with this as well. So we have a very specific portal, although you could send either one of us an email and it gets you to the same result, around doing a wage analysis, and we'll just walk you through it. And we'll find out about your organization. We'll look at the occupations that you want to look at and you're having the most challenges with, and we'll just work through that process with you. And it could be while we're doing wage analysis, we're also looking at the job descriptions and some of the other things that we're going to look at later on as we move through this. So know that resource is out there, and that it's not often as easy as just raising the wage. You have to change how you talk about your organization and build that familiarity through your job description that we were talking about earlier. So we're going to talk more about building familiarity because it's not just your job posting that can help with that. So Andrew, I think this is this first section is yours, and then I take over after that. But the first piece, Andrew.
So first piece we want to bring to everyone's attention is these great hiring events that we've been so successful running lately. So these have been done all virtually. I think eventually we'll probably do these in person. I think right now just reference this as a virtual option, but it is a way for us to give your business this great spotlight. So we're really good at shining the spotlight on, put you on a stage, and letting you tell your story of that business directly to the community. So I like to call this is much less a presentation than it is a conversation. So you're going to come on with me. We're going to post, number one, we're going to post one of these positions that you're looking to hire. I'm going to get to know them really well. I'm going to find what skill sets that you're really coveting, and I'm going to go into a database and I'm going to find job seekers that meet those requirements. I'm going to go in, I'm going to invite them to join us on a Zoom call. And then while we're there, like I said, you're going to have a stage, or your designee is going to talk all about what great impacts you're making in this community. One of the things that we really need to recognize here in Northern Colorado is that our business community is vast majority is primarily made up of the small and medium-sized companies. The community may not know exactly who you are or what you do. You've got a story to tell there. You've got a hook to be able to bring them in, to be able to tell them, this is who we are, this is how we impact the community, and this is how we make things better. We'll transition then. We're definitely going to talk about your open position. We're going to really identify what skill sets are going to make somebody successful in here. What does a day in the life look like? What is again, we want job seekers to see themselves in that position. We're going to find out, we're going to end the conversation on a real detailed analysis of how do I apply and make sure my application gets noticed. If you are a company that has I'll reference Larimer County, our application process is not simple and it's easy to get lost in it. So we want to make sure if you have something similar like that, let's walk some of these. We know that these are a skilled applicant pool that you're talking to. Walk them through the process, make sure they understand exactly how that's going to look. Don't help them avoid the pitfalls. If you have an automated tracking system, and that if you answer one question wrong, that application may never make it to your desk. Walk them through to make sure that they are answering the questions correctly. These events are free. They are worked on your schedule. I ask for 5 days advance notice for once I have your job posting to be able to organize an event. And again, we're going to be really focused in on the talent that is interested in working for those positions. I'm going to expand that skill set to be able to find similar occupations for people that and introduce them to the concept of of changing that and coming to work for you. But again, it's all about giving you the stage, giving you the ability to address the community directly. I've gotten such great feedback on this element is that, the number one comments were, coming from our job seekers that attend are, I didn't know you existed. I didn't know you were here. So think about the opportunity, the eyes that are open to that. And not only, are you maybe even, tapping into new talent that you can hire, you're tapping into new customers. You're creating awareness of who you are and what you do in the community. That is some really powerful and beneficial information to put out there. To sign up is so easy. Send me an email. It's probably the easiest one. Or if you have that link, again, you can it does get shot to my email. All of it's going to result in me picking up the phone and giving you a call, and we're going to talk about your specific needs. I really want to make sure that these are tailored to you. If you have multiple positions that you're hiring for, I want to make sure we spend ample enough time on each one to highlight what those are looking like. And I will work really hard to find the talent and bring them directly to you on that call.
All right, so the next thing that we want to talk about is career pathways. So this is a little bit more long-term when it comes to investments. But one of the things that you could consider as your organization is thinking about moving forward and how do we access some of the talent pools that are being created through education, either K-12, higher ed, so it could be our community colleges or our universities. So we do have a resource that's specifically geared towards helping you access those talent pools and those career pathways. It's called NOCO Inspire. It's pretty new. It just launched about 4 or 5 months ago. And it is a collaboration between all of the school districts in Larimer County, and Weld County is quickly going to join those, our workforce centers, so our organization in Weld Counties, and it's our higher education, so Front Range, Ames, CSU, UNC. So how can you quickly and easily understand the best ways to access interns, apprenticeships, career tours, job shadows, all of that? So that you can start building awareness, bringing in some of those student candidates that are need to know what you do and can provide some of the oomph and some of that internship skill power that you might need in your organization as well. Other things, there are organizations beyond NOCO Inspire, but they work very closely together that are working on similar things. And there are Northern Colorado sector partnerships. So our healthcare partnership, our manufacturing partnership, and our construction partnership, among all the things that they do, they have very specific goals around building awareness, industry awareness for younger people, students in particular. But they don't limit it to that. So they talk about parents and how can we help parents understand these pieces. And so connecting with these organizations will allow you and your organization to be a part of all those efforts to make sure that, again, you have access to those career pathways and the conversations around awareness and just helping people to understand what you do, what the industry does, and why it's a great place to work. So moving along, we do want to talk about talent pools. And Andrew, we have about 5 minutes to get through our last few pieces here, so we're going to have to go pretty quick. So the first one is Andrew's to talk about.
I referenced this earlier before. So Kennedy, Colorado is a database that it serves the entire state. I work really once I have your job post, we can get this posted inside this database. It does give you access. We've got over 35,000 active users in Northern Colorado, so it's growing the eyes that are going to be on your job post. It also provides an ability for you to search for candidates that meet your ideal skill set and reach out to them via email or by phone. Again, I'm here to help you walk through that registration process. It is very quick and very easy, but this is step number one, especially if you want to participate in one of our hiring events. This is where I'm going to post your position first. This is also where I'm going to be fishing for those talent to bring to us onto that Zoom call.
Wow, 35,000 people active in the state. Right?
Active.
Pretty great, Andrew. All right, so the next one we want to talk about, going back to our higher education, our universities. If you aren't already plugged in, I encourage you to plug in. And both CSU and UNC use the same platform. It's called Handshake. So if you have an account with one, it's through Handshake. You have an account with the other one, you just have to open that up. And typically there's a cost associated with that, so I encourage you to take a peek at it. But both universities have career center staff that are available to help you, and they have specific staff set aside to help businesses too on campus or just student recruiting, period. But there are a lot of young people that are coming out of our universities with talent right now, and we want to make sure that you have access to them. We also want to keep those folks in Northern Colorado and not have them go somewhere else in the nation. So you connecting with these resources is great. The other thing I would say is with Handshake, if you've got a job description in there, and it's an opportunity to look at it under the lens that Andrew shared around equity and inclusion, skill sets, all familiarity, update it, and then get it in the system too, because our younger folks, those are buzzwords for them, and they're really going to be interested in seeing that information in those job posts. It's a very similar process with both Front Range and Ames, although they use a different system. They use Purple Briefcase. So again, if you already have a profile in one, you just need to alert the other community college so that they can activate the profile through Purple Briefcase for them. So know that it's the same platform for both of our community colleges. Very similar, just make sure you've got those up-to-date job descriptions in there. And again, Andrew's team can help you with those. So recruiting candidates where they live. This is another piece that Andrew and I had talked about a little bit earlier, and that we do have some businesses that are just not getting anything out of the local well, and they need to think about recruiting external to Larimer County, external to Northern Colorado, potentially outside of the state. So we do have some resources to help you with that, and we're going to share an example with you here really quickly. And this is an example that comes out of our sheriff's office, who Andrew and I were helping very recently, for recruiting patrol deputies. So we do some analysis through some software that we have, and you get a map that looks like this, and then a very long list, which I'm not showing you in the screenshot. But what you can see in this map is where there are oversupplies of sheriff's deputies, essentially, or patrol deputies. And the bigger the circle is, indicates that there is an economic advantage for people moving from that area to Northern Colorado. So they are going to gain money. So like, for instance, in New York, their cost of living is so high that you can see it here on this chart, it's the top one, that their wage won't be significantly different, but the cost of living here is so much lower that there will be a net hourly pay gain of $22 an hour. Whereas if you go to Denver, you really only get that pay gain of 43 cents an hour, even though wages are pretty similar. So based on wage rates, based on someone's familiarity with Northern Colorado already, and based on where there are oversupplies, we can help you identify areas of the country that make sense for you to market your jobs. And then we can help you identify ways to market your jobs there. Now, of course, we can't help you with marketing dollars if you want to buy a sign at a bus station or run a TV ad or something like that. But there are resources out there if you have the money to invest in that. But how do you post your jobs there? How do you get access to those candidates? We can help you answer those questions, as well as do an analysis that helps you identify where, because every job is different. There are some jobs where there's only a few areas, and then there are some jobs where there's lots of areas that you may not be considering. So to access that, oops, I need to get my cursor in the right spot. Very similar. In fact, it's the same information that we had above. You can submit an online data request and we can get you this information, or give us a call, send an email, and we'll walk through this with you. Again, one phone call could open up all of this, and we could go through a lot of different steps with you. The next thing that we want to talk about is that if you are recruiting from out of state, there are some resources that have been developed in Northern Colorado to help you with this. And Work in Northern Colorado is one of those web pages. This is maintained by the Fort Collins Area Chamber. It does cover all of Northern Colorado and all of our communities here. And it is supported by all of our municipal partners, our county, and a lot of our other business serving organizations. So encourage you to share this web page with anyone that you are recruiting, or even add it to those job descriptions that you are sending out of state, because it gives a really good overview of our community and why it's such a great place to live. And then the last bit Andrew's going to talk about is a great service for family members that might be moving with a newly hired employee.
Yeah, so this came out of a conversation we had with the Fort Collins Chamber. And so this is actually a service that's brought, that the Fort Collins Chamber has invested heavily in with us. And so really what this offers is, as you are recruiting those individuals from out of state, this is a resource that you can provide that allows their spouse, their partner, their family members to also get connected to employment opportunities while you're recruiting that individual. So this process can begin immediately. So as your conversations has begun with someone in Maricopa County, Arizona, they can be connecting with, their family members can be connecting with me. We do provide a concierge service. This is very individualized, and we have a very specific conversations with these family members, identify their goals, what they're looking for in their next employer. We're really going to, dive deep into that well and create a very well-organized action plan for them to be able to get connected to employment just as soon as they get into town. We're going to utilize all of our business contacts. We're going to utilize everything we can to be able to create and generate those opportunities. Now, that being stated, it's one of these services that we really market heavily to our businesses as you are reaching out of state. I really want to make sure that you know that this is something in your back pocket. Again, because of the Fort Collins Chamber, this comes to you at no cost.
Okay, and then as I advance things, we're ready for questions. So Jen, I'm going to stop sharing and we'll go back to gallery view. Do we have any questions?
Adam, I haven't seen any come through the chat. Just a reminder, I know in interest of time, if you need to hop off, I know Adam and Andrew are staying on for a few more minutes, but thank you for everyone who attended. If you need to hop off and go to another meeting or lunch, but feel free to put any chat in the chat function there, or raise your hand. You can come on camera, or we're happy to answer anything. I will send these resources out this afternoon or early tomorrow. I know there was a lot of links in there, so those will be active when we send that attendee, post-attendee email out. So Amanda's asking, do you have a data regarding how vaccine mandates may change the workforce?
We don't have any of that data, Amanda. It's a great question. And I think it's kind of a mixed bag, right? Because we have about 2/3 of our population, we have a third of our population is all gung-ho. We have another third that was saying, ooh, I'll get the vaccination when it's easy. And then, we have a good solid number of people, maybe not a third, that are very anti-vaccine. And so I think if a business does require vaccines, you could lose some employees. That's why I think it's worth, communication is going to be paramount in these conversations. And if you're able to open up lines of communication, or if you have a large staff, survey those staff just to see what makes most sense. And then also talk with our local health department, because if this isn't a direction that you feel comfortable going as an organization, what are some other ways that you can highlight and or increase COVID-19 safety on your premises? And they are more than open to answering those questions, and in some cases they'll even come out and talk with you about that. So I guess those would be my recommendations. First is communicate with staff, reach out to the health department. So social media, Jody, plays a huge role in recruiting, and that sort of outbound recruiting that you will see in LinkedIn is huge. And I think we could probably do a whole session on just that. And in fact, it might be good for us to come back in the future and do a session on that. We have somebody that's particularly good at it in our office, and he's our Elevate training coordinator. But what I would say is that, yeah, that's a good way for hooking those fish, but getting those fish to apply, it goes back to those very specific pieces that those basics that Andrew and I were talking about. So yeah, don't undercut social media. And social media can also be a great way to build familiarity and awareness with an organization, especially if you're in an industry that isn't generally as well known. And I think a lot of our manufacturers fall into that category, and there's many others.
Yeah, and there's, we're seeing, the social media, like Adam has mentioned, is just such a large topic. And I mean, I think, Adam and I, being in our mid-40s, may go directly to the LinkedIn, but there's also, this TikTok resume going on right now. And there's, these other platforms that you'll be able to reach out to. So there's multi-generational benefits in being able to identify a very well-meaning social media plan. It's just one of these, just like anything else, it's one of these that once you begin, it's going to need a lot of attention, and something that you're going to have to be able to tend to daily.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, great. So I don't see any other questions unless we have any others, or again, raise your hand. Adam, Andrew, thank you so much for presenting today. A lot of information. But again, it's all in your presentation, so I will send that out. Also want to say thank you to BKD and Jennifer as our sponsors. We couldn't do this series without them.
Awesome. And thank you all for joining and sticking around an extra few minutes. Jen, this was great. Thank you for the opportunity. Really appreciate it.
All right, everyone have a great day, okay?